You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
Do you want to experience the thrill of a Packers game at Lambeau Field? If so, be sure to get your game tickets from the longtime trusted source in Wisconsin, Ticket King. Visit their locations in Milwaukee and Green Bay, or just go to their website, theticketking.com. Again, that's theticketking.com.
This is Titletown Sound.
Prepare yourself for overwhelming intelligence.
He's going to look like Gronk riding a unicorn carrying a lightsaber.
I know how toast works.
Clay Matthews, Squirrel Whisperer.
Your squirrel naming game is not strong.
The turd cheeseburger could come back.
If one of us wants to pee on it, sure.
I'm not bailing you out on that.
I was acting unprofessionally.
I'm just here to ruin things. Welcome to episode 93 of Titletown Sound, the Gilbert Brown edition of the show. And it is certainly a big one for you. Bobbo here, as per usual. On the show this week is a man who until this weekend thought that Stranger Things was a documentary on my life, Kristofco. Chris, how are you doing today?
You're stranger than strange, Bobbo. I'm doing well.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. And we also have a man who until yesterday thought that Game of Thrones was an infomercial for the Squatty Potty. Mr. James Korsmo. James, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for asking. I don't need the Squatty Potty, so things are looking up.
Fantastic. On this week's show, Chris gives us an in-depth report on the lives affected by the hole in the Lambeau Field wall. Also in the next hour, I will legally change my name to Dabo, and we expand to 48 hosts because we will not be outdone by FIFA. But first, we are going to start off with a new segment for the show. Every week, one of our hosts will sound off on an issue facing the Packers or the NFL. Please enjoy this next installation of Sound Off, this week with Mr. James Korsmo.
It's time to sound off!
There are certain phrases made up of two words that never fail to get under my skin. Soy cheese, ATM machine, Minnesota Vikings. But over the past few years, one phrase has managed to win the war against my patience on more than one occasion. These two words are so annoying and so condescending that whenever I see them on social media or hear them on sports radio, it makes me immediately assume that the person who has uttered this phrase has some sort of fundamental issue with their self-esteem. There is no other reason to project such a label on another human being other than a feeling of abject inadequacy in their own life. What phrase am I referring to? True fan. Packers fans are by and large some of the best in the world. Passionate, knowledgeable, decent people who cheer for the Packers with all their heart on game day, and if you cheer for the opponent, after some good-natured ribbing, will give you a beer and a brat and invite you over to join their tailgate. I've met some amazing people in the Packers universe. I am convinced that the vast, vast majority of Packers fans are kind, accepting people who will let you know that your favorite team sucks, but won't hold it against you personally. The last thing they would ever do is to assume that the way they support the Packers is better than anybody else. This is not about those people. No. This is about the people who see somebody question a play call or a personnel package and ridicule the questioner as if the only way to love your team is to show blind adoration. This is about the people who have the means to attend games and collect rooms full of memorabilia, who have come to the conclusion that those who cannot do the same are inadequate. This is about the people who feel that the casual fan, who may not know what Mike McCarthy's favorite pierogi shop in Pittsburgh is, or how many acres of cornfields Jordy Nelson plows each summer, is somehow less important than the person who knows where Eddie Lacy had his first egg roll, or how many bottles of shampoo Clay Matthews goes through in a month. Measuring a person's fandom is much like being a quarterback in Houston. Pointless. Why on earth would anybody feel compelled to judge another person based on how much of a fan they think they are? It's stupid. It affects nothing. The team isn't going to play any better because you have more tchotchkes than another person. No Lombardi trophy has ever been hoisted in Green Bay because Earl in Sturgeon Bay has a #1 Packers fan foam finger hanging next to his taxidermied muskie. Stop judging people. All Packers fans are rowing the same boat towards the same port. We all want the same goal. Yes, a lot of us have differing opinions on which way to paddle or who should steer, But ultimately, we all crave the same thing, success. That feeling of communal joy, the sharing of happiness and gratitude, and the affirmation that our devotion has meant something to every employee at 1265 Lombardi Avenue. The pursuit of these goals keeps us invested in the team. It's what makes this fun. Otherwise, most years would just result in a feeling of wasted time and emotions. Everybody has their own reasons and motivations for supporting whichever team they choose. Nobody's judgment of that support serves any purpose at all except to be annoying. Why be annoying to fellow Packers fans? We have enough annoyance to deal with from Vikings and Bears fans as it is. We don't need to shoot ourselves in the foot too. It's not that hard to be you and let others be themselves. I take my cue from one of the most prolific minds that has ever graced this blue marble we call home, one Mr. Jerry Springer. Be kind to yourselves and each other.
Good stuff, James. If you have any comments or anything to add, please leave a comment on our website under the podcast post. And on that note, let's get into the game that was the Packers and the Giants. Green Bay not looking like the better team for most of the first half. I know I was feeling pretty pessimistic for a while, but there is a reason that you play so many minutes in a game. It's not a 5-minute game or a 10-minute game. And the Packers actually kind of kept this team, Packers defense kept them in the game for a while. The offense came around, really started rolling on the Giants D. So James, I'll go to you first. What did you think of the overall performance of this Packers team on Sunday?
You know, this was the most complete game from the defense I think I've seen maybe all year. They are, everybody's, Aaron Rodgers gets the bulk of the kudos. But if you look at the totality of the game, he played about a 2 quarters and 3 minutes of amazing football, whereas the defense played 60 full minutes of great football. I mean, not literally, that doesn't make any sense if you're looking at it linearly, but you know what I'm saying. When they locked down, and it was great to see, especially considering that they've been so banged up and haven't played so well for a while. So I thought it was a great game, a very complete game, and I, like you, many of you, I'm sure, were frustrated as all get out for most of the first half until they started putting things together. So it was nice to see them win in a way they haven't won yet this year, which was by relying on their defense. It was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, until that last, I want to say 4 minutes or so, I think they had something like a total of 7 yards of total offense in the first half. It was not good. And the slow start would normally have killed this team with the way that the defense has been playing. But you got to give the defense credit. They, like you said, they kept them in the game. And they're the reason, honestly, they're the reason the Packers won this game. Of course, Aaron Rodgers put on a show. The offense kind of exploded in the second half, and that was great to see. But without the defense holding them or keeping them in the game, without them playing a stellar game against an offense that has weapons, we wouldn't be talking about a victory today. And we've got to give credit to special teams as well. And through gritted teeth, I will give credit to Jeff Janis, who had a great day on special teams.
Thank you.
Overall, in the first half, the defense was the reason the Packers were in the game. Finally, the offense woke up and really took the game over. That was a dominant performance. Like you said, after we got to about the 4-minute mark, Aaron Rodgers woke up. The offensive line was incredible. It's got to be the best performance I've ever seen by an offensive line while still giving up 5 sacks. I mean, they were incredible. And to play that well, had the offense started a little bit earlier, we would have been looking at, a 56-13 game. So overall, everybody got on track by the end. And we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but we can't have another slow start like this. We're going to be in trouble. But against a defense that is very good in the Giants, you can expect the offense to be a little slower to start. Just didn't expect it to be as slow as it was.
I have to give you some credit, and I hate to do this. I hate to do it because that means I have to take credit from me and give it to you, but I'm going to do it anyway. Last week you said that you expected this to be a kind of reminiscent of the victory against the Falcons in 2010. And it was very reminiscent of the Falcons victory in that it was an unexpected blowout that was pretty much propelled by a pre-halftime offensive or a pre-halftime big score. So kudos to you for having the crystal ball.
To be fair, I didn't envision the Hail Mary, although I've envisioned it, I think, every night since then because it's just brilliant to think about. But this again, I've said all season 2010 is not. This is not 2010. I don't know, guys. This feels a whole hell of a lot like 2010 at this point. Although this was a home game and not a road game, this is a team that was not supposed to be. I mean, they were supposed to beat the Giants. If you look at the line, they weren't supposed to play that way against the defense. We said at the beginning of the year that as long as Rodgers is playing well, they have a puncher's chance against anyone. But we expected the defense to play fairly well. Well, I'll say right now, with the way he is playing, I don't care how the defense is playing. With the way Aaron Rodgers is playing, they have a puncher's chance against any team in the league in both conferences. And I'm excited to see what they can do against a defense that isn't as good as the Giants.
As I know, I'm feeling the 2010 vibe a little bit. I'm still, count me as a nervous Nelly even now. Part of the reason, of course, Jordy Nelson got hurt during the game. His status very uncertain for Sunday. I know personally I'm not expecting him to play at all, but Chris, I'll throw this to you first. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say there's no chance he's playing. I mean I know that they've been saying it's a couple of fractured ribs. There's a chance. There is zero chance he's playing.
I heard his arm fell off, but that's not a confirmed report.
There was an unconfirmed report on Twitter today that his eyeball popped out and put a hole in the wall near the locker room. I don't know if that's true, but we have our reporters on it.
Oh, BJ?
That's a heck of an eyeball. Anyway, Chris, the question at this point has to be, is this Jordy-less Packers team better than the Jordy-less Packers team we saw last year?
Yes, it is. Last year, the offense was in a funk, and it never really recovered. I don't think Rodgers adjusted well to not having Jordy there as a safety valve. I think this year, he's got receivers that he trusts that have come of their own. Like, remember last year, you had Davante Adams kind of in his sophomore slump. This year, you've got Davante Adams as a legitimate 1 or 2. And on some teams, he'd be a 1, and he's been able to trust him. You've got Jared Cook in the middle for that release valve that you didn't have last year. You've got Randall Cobb, as we saw last game, playing a hell of a game and able to play that slot with, the other cast of characters, Geronimo Allison, marijuana charges, notwithstanding. So I think this is a better overall receiving core, and I think they're more adjusted to playing without Jordy Nelson. Add to the fact that Aaron Rodgers is just playing better at this point. And yes, I think that receiving core this year without Jordy, if they have him, if they're without him on Sunday, is better than last year's was.
All right, James, what do you think?
I think yes. I mean, I don't want to get too cocky or confident, but if there's a benefit to this at all, it's that it happened so late and that they've had so long through the year to gel as a unit, and they lose a huge part of the group, but the rest of it is still there in place. Whereas last year they had to kind of learn how to coexist on the fly. And I saw something this past Sunday after Jordy got hurt that last year they didn't have through the whole rest of the season. I saw a team that took advantage of the other team's weaknesses and mistakes. And when there wasn't a weakness or a mistake there to be taken advantage of, they made the other team make a mistake, which is what all the great teams do. And that's a big advantage for the Packers going forward, and that there's 3 or 4 decent wide receivers that aren't world beaters, but you put them all together and it's a solid group. And then you have Jared Cook, like Chris said, who can take the pressure off, and throw in Montgomery coming out of the backfield or Christine Michael, who I thought played a hell of a game too in his limited time.
He is fast. It's fun to watch it.
You get so used to seeing Eddie Lacy for a while. He's kind of, he runs into the line and kind of bullies his way through, or you see Le'Veon Bell Jr., Ty Montgomery just kind of take his time and find a hole. And Christine Michael's like a bolt of lightning. He takes the ball and he goes. And
I haven't seen a football player hit the hole that quick since OBJ in the locker room.
Oh.
I'll be here all week.
Hey-oh.
Don't forget to tip your server.
Who snuck that drum set in here? So I think that it's going to hurt not having Jordy Nelson, but I don't think it's going to be a deal breaker like it was last year at all.
I mean, look how they played against one of the best pass defenses in the game. They were essentially without Jordy Nelson for 40 minutes of that game, and that's the 40 minutes that they went off. So right. I'm not saying you don't need Jordy Nelson. Jordy Nelson is an asset, and it was just getting to the point where he was back to old Jordy. But hell, if we have to go without him for a week, I think this team can still win even without him.
Right, and that was the point that I was making to everybody, because people were all over social media going, well, of course Cobb was able to get, come out from the slot and have a big game. Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie was hurt. And I'm like, well, Jordy Nelson was hurt.
Right.
I mean,
right.
How it's not like we had our full healthy group out there going up against a weak secondary. You still have one of the best secondaries in the game, even without a 40-year-old DRC. So give or take 3 or 4 years. I don't know how old the guy is, but he's old. So, he's like my grandpa. I don't know how old he is, but I know he's old.
All right, getting further into this upcoming game, the Packers defense stepped up when they needed to. And Chris, is the Packers defense going to be enough to help the Packers win against Dallas on the road? Are they going to be good enough against this Dallas offense, which has been pretty doggone effective all season?
They're playing with a lot of heart, and that's the only thing I can say that they don't have a lot of personnel, but they really have been playing with a lot of heart. And strike me down, but Dom Capers, you got to give him some credit because he's doing something right to keep, the Giants to 13 points, to keep these drives from ending in touchdowns and leaving them in field goals. And yeah, at times this defense is going to look exposed. They're going to give up big plays. It's going to happen. Sometimes it's going to happen because a guy's in the wrong spot because he's not used to playing where he is. If Micah Hyde makes a mistake with an assignment, he's not a cornerback. He's pressed into service, but he's not generally playing cornerback. So you've got to understand that. But I think this defense has the ability to be adequate enough to let the offense win. And they certainly were more than adequate enough against the Giants, but I really think they can be. What you got to look for is the offense to play its part and to play its part early. We cannot allow the defense to hang out there in the wind like we did against the Giants. If we do that against this Dallas team, they're not going to beat them. That's the one thing we cannot afford. And I don't expect it either because Dallas's defense certainly isn't that good. So I don't think the offense will sputter as much. But if it does, watch out. We need them to get off to us. It doesn't have to be, a blazing fast start, but they certainly can't sputter like the way they did against the Giants.
And James, your thoughts?
Yeah.
A little more Jeff Janis early on, you think?
I think, obviously we need to get Jeff Janis more involved. He needs to a lot more fly sweeps and reverses, and he should throw a pass to himself.
Yes. Good.
So no, I
continue appeasing me.
As Chris said, the offense cannot leave the defense hanging out to dry for as long as they did against New York because Dallas's offense is just way, way better than New York's is. That being said, I think that the defense, as long as they can get some pressure on Dak Prescott and keep him in the pocket, keep him contained, hopefully Clay Matthews and Nick Perry bring their A games, and Julius Peppers continues to show his true talent as opposed to, just showing up whenever he feels like it, actually play well the whole game. I mean, I think we have a really good chance of at least, I don't care if Ezekiel Elliott gets 300 yards rushing. I really don't, as long as we keep him out of the end zone. He can rush down to the 10 all day long. Doesn't bother me.
Well, the only thing that concerns me, I think the key to this game is the defense able to stop the run or slow it down. And the reason I worry about that is if you turn this into a time of possession game and Dallas can really outpossess the Packers, that's one way they can beat them. In a shootout, I love the Packers. In a game where we're playing for possession and Dallas is able to run the ball effectively, that's when they worry me, and that's when they start to tire out the defense. And, a couple of 3-and-outs, and suddenly an exhausted defense gives up 14 points. So I really think the run defense is the most important thing. If we can keep them from getting vapor hot running the ball, then I think that's really advantageous to the Packers.
Yeah, personally, I will be very happy if Dallas is just kicking field goals, but unless it's Chris Boniel coming back, because that's just bad mojo. But James, you were going to say?
I feel like I feel like the secondary Gunter's going to be put on probably one-on-one with Des Bryant, and so it's going to be kind of a free for all. Witten scares me a lot in the passing game because he specializes in the thing that we can't defend very well, which is a tight end going and sitting in the middle of the field in his zone coverage and just waiting for the ball. So Cole Beasley scares me too because he's one of those wide receivers that always tends to get open, and so I think it's possible, but I think the offense might have to bail us out quite a bit.
All right. Before we go to break, I did want to bring up Julius Peppers. Does anyone want to do an I'm a man and I was wrong on him, or are we just saying this was a one-time thing?
I'll never admit that I was wrong, generally. Julius Peppers still, throughout the regular season, shows up when he wants to. He just really wants to show up in the playoffs. That man, I never said the man didn't have talent left. I just that he took long periods of time off where he disappeared. Well, guess what? He decided in the playoffs he's not going to disappear. Thank God, because we need him. And if he hasn't put together a couple of good games in a row, he looks great. And we're going to need him to look great against this offensive line. Let's not forget, this may be, it's 1-2 with the Packers and Dallas with offensive lines. So if he can get through if that old bag of bones can get through this line, I will forever forgive him for every play he took off.
Fair enough. James, how about you?
I will. I'm not going to apologize yet because, one game is one game, and that's kind of Pepper's track record is show up for a game and then go to sleep for another. So let's wait and see. However, I will say this. I think that I do owe Mike McCarthy and Dom Capers a small apology because their strategy of resting him and not playing him a whole lot throughout the year is really, I think, starting to pay off. He's a lot more fresh than he probably was in the last couple of years. So I will apologize to them for that because I was always wondering where he was, and now we know, and it made sense. So, God, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Dom Capers.
Words I never thought we would hear on this program. But
that hurt.
Anyways, we are going to... I'll bet it did, man. I'll bet it did. We are going to hibernate real quickly going to break, but we will wake up in time to come back with Twitter questions, your voicemails. We will hear from Papa K, and we got a whole mess of other stuff, as I'm sure you're familiar with. So stick around, and we will be right back after this break.
Aaron Rodgers with the wrist. Eddie Lacy with the truck stick. Clinton Dix with the picks. Quick to pick the quarterback and get the upset. We got the NFC North sick. We got the NFC North lit. Face of the North in the North face. Winning the baby.
Bobbo here once again to tell you about What's the Score? The Sports News Quiz. If you haven't checked out their podcast yet, I'll give you an idea of what you're missing. What's the Score is a sports trivia show quizzing listeners and panelists alike on the sporting news of the week. And sometimes they have shows dedicated to a single topic, such as the Super Bowl, or Christmas, or highlight championships. Okay, maybe not highlight championships, but they're all fun and there are terrific people on the panel each and every week. Recent episodes have had Milwaukee Admirals announcer Aaron Sims, News Talk 1130's Dan O'Donnell, and WTMJ.com Preps Live announcer Barry Nelson. Even our own James Korsmo has been a panelist a few times. Their website? WTSSportsquiz.com. Again, that's WTSSportsquiz.com. So please check out What's the Score. They're friends of ours, and we think they would admit to being our friends too. And consider being a contestant on the show. It won't hurt, I promise.
Hey, Titletown Sound listeners. As you've heard on the last few shows, we made a bit of a change. We're going independent, and we need your support. You can support us by visiting www.patreon.com/TTSO. For a small donation, you'll get some bonus content and early access to our show. And if you don't want to donate any money, we get it. You can still help us in an important way. Go to iTunes and give us a rating and a review. Your 5-star ratings really help the show and help us become more visible. So thanks for all your support. Keep downloading and listen for new episodes every week.
The Green Bay Packers are 4-6, but they're at Philadelphia. They play Houston, Seattle. They got to play Minnesota, go to Detroit. this puppy's over.
They counted the sound, now we lead the division again. At the top of the round, 17 and Jody with the hands. AR-12 split the divas, you know that we winning again. AR-12 split the divas, you know that we winning again. They don't want to see the squad.
And that's why I think we need to get an outside linebacker named Salt, so we can have Assault and Peppers. You see what I'm saying?
If we could get like an inside linebacker named like Mustard, we could do a whole condiment theme. That'd be great.
I don't want a defensive player named Ketchup though. I don't want that in the secondary.
Yeah.
Is there a college that's a guy named Fresh Cracked anywhere?
I really hope. Oh, we're back. Yes.
It's awkward.
Episode 93 of Titletown Sound. We're just chatting amongst ourselves here because we've memorized the breaks already, so we weren't paying attention. Hopefully you were, though. On that note, let's go to our Twitter segment. You can tweet at us any old time you want, at Titletown Sound. And we got a handful of tweets here from you folks. Thanks for tweeting. At Dylan35_52. He was predicting that Dallas was going to win by 5 scores. And on the other side, we have at Wilshide, Wilshide, who said, if there remains a table, it can and will be ran. So, James, I will throw it to you first. Which of these fine people are you going to side with? Dallas by 5 scores, or if there is a table to run, it will be ran.
5 scores? 30, that's 35 points?
That could be 15.
It could be 15, I guess, if you're conservative.
Safety.
Wait, what would it have to
or
be?
I guess it could be 10 if it's all safeties. Or do extra points?
5 score
points
game.
count? Because that could be 5. I mean,
I guess it could be as many as 40, because you get a 5-score game. 40-0 would be a 5-score game technically.
Welcome to Titletown Math.
Yeah, we'll get back to you guys on what a 5-score game is after we get out the abacus.
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't like to be optimistic because I hate setting myself up for feeling crappy later on down the line. But I the way that Aaron Rodgers is playing, I honestly do think as long as there's a table to be ran, I think that we're fully capable of doing it.
I suspect that Dylan, I believe that was our first tweeter, is doing a little reverse tweet psychology, because I don't believe that any Packers fan really believes that they will lose by 5 scores. But what I do want to ask you is, Bobbo, do you have any sort of train sound effect, like some sort of train whistle?
I could do one.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. If you could.
Woot woot.
All aboard, because it's time to get on this train. We are running tables. We are rolling over track. This team will not lose again until the preseason. They are not built for losses anymore. Get on board. Let's mix our metaphors. This team will win.
My favorite, Chris, is when he gets so hyped that he just starts mixing up his metaphors. That's great.
Well, you think about it. Sometimes you set up the model train set. That's got to go on a table. So in a sense, the train can run the table, but it was really more mental confusion than thinking it out that much.
When you explain it that way, I like that. That's good.
Good. Yeah, it was well thought out, huh?
Yeah, it's too much thinking for me. I'll just move on to the next tweets. We got a trio of tweets here, just kind of saying how they think the Packers will do, what they need to do to beat the Cowboys. At Rupperoni said, well, taking that the Giants beat the Cowboys twice and Aaron demolished the New York secondary, we'll be just fine.
So that's the transitive property of the NFL right there, okay?
Yeah. We have at Brian_Van Cleve, who said Cowboys secondary is almost as weak as, well, ours. I expect to see AR come out slinging. Defense just has to control Zeke. And at KS Krug said same. Oh, go ahead, James.
I was just going to say, here's the thing. Historically, and again, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, Mr. Pessimist, but historically throughout this season, every time we've played a defense that Aaron Rodgers should shred, he's kind of not shredded them, at least not to start with. So I feel like that's some bad juju.
Mm-hmm. And at KS Krug was saying, same gameplay as New York, pressure Dak, and put Dallas in third and long situations, stuff the run. So it looks like all three guys kind of saying, basically stuff the run, at least 2 out of 3 saying stuff the run, but that's not really going to be easy at all. I mean, nobody's been able to really tear apart the Dallas front line yet. And I don't know, Chris, do you have any ideas on how the Packers defense can dismantle that offensive line?
Short of a fault line opening up like at the line of scrimmage and all of the offensive linemen falling in, you're not going to dominate them at the line of scrimmage. You got to get lucky in key spots and get to Dak when you can. But more importantly, just keep the pressure on as much as possible. You're not going to get to him often, but don't make him comfortable back there if you can mix some things up. And I think you're going to see some interesting things from Dom. The problem is you can't send a whole lot of guys when you got a secondary that doesn't exactly usually play cornerback. So that limits what Dom can do. I think the key is that the defense has to be adequate. They don't have to be great. They don't have to put in the kind of performance that they put in against the Giants. They could get some lucky bounces. That would be nice. But if the defense plays reasonably well, I'm confident that the offense can make up for it. Because like you talked about, that Dallas secondary isn't exactly frightening. So it's a different challenge this week. It's the offensive line is going to be a lot different for Dallas. You don't have Marshall Newhouse playing anymore. So it's a different beast, but I do think they can be successful against them.
How does Marshall Newhouse keep coming up on this show? We need to bring down a banhammer on that name or something. But anyway,
as long as he is willing to escort our defensive linemen into the backfield, I'm never going to ban Marshall Newhouse.
Never.
That's true.
Until he's a Packer. If he's a Packer again, then yes, I will ban him.
Okay. Fair enough. James, your thoughts on controlling the line and Ezekiel Elliott?
As Chris said, you can't control the Cowboys' offensive line there. It's not a thing that can happen. So what the Packers are going to have to do is guard the second line there, the second zone. Watch. There's 2 guys I think that are going to be key to controlling the run game on our team, and that's going to be Jake Ryan and Morgan Burnett. I wouldn't be shocked to see Burnett be kind of put into that middle linebacker hybrid role again, and maybe rotate in Kentrell Bryce or somebody of that nature to play in the back. But because they're going to have to put 8 or 9 guys in the box, you're just going to have to do it because Elliott's way too good and the line is way too good to just sit back in a cover 2 and wait for him.
All right. Again, thank you for your tweets at Titletown Sound. Any old time you want to tweet at us. Going to move on to the voicemail segment. If you want to vocalize your thoughts to us, you can call us any old time at 920-445-8876. Or if you want to spell it out, Chris, how do they do that?
920-HIC TTSO.
HIC TTSO. Yeah, that works. I guess I can go with that.
We've reached compromise. It's like the Cold War. It's finally over, Bobbo. We've come to the table.
Yeah, well, I'm going to think about it. I haven't agreed to it yet. But on that note, let's go to our first voicemail. This coming from Aurora, Illinois.
Yo, I called a couple weeks ago after me and my homie K'd a 30 rack. And guess what? We K'd another 30 rack. And we got one thing to say. Go, Pack, go! Woo!
Very good. Especially the woo. But yes.
I think you guys know what this call requires.
I believe so.
It's a bro to English translation.
Indeed.
All right, so if we play that again, I'll help the listeners with a simple translation.
Yo.
Hello, everyone.
A couple weeks ago after me
I corresponded with you a while ago when my friend and I drank some beverages. Guess what? We enjoyed more beverages. And we only have one thing to say to you. Yay, Packers of Green Bay. Hooray. I hope that helped.
I understand it much better now.
I love that the show's becoming bilingual. That's just terrific.
You can couple that with your Portuguese, and we're trilingual.
We are just inclusive here at Titletown Sound. It's what we do.
It is.
Absolutely.
And they're from Aurora, which is the home of Wayne and Garth, which makes them triple cool to me.
And Stan Mikita's Donuts?
Yes, Stan Mikita's Donuts.
I don't have a gun, let alone enough to necessitate an entire rack.
let alone a 30 rack. Anyway. All right.
And scene.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be here all week. Let's go on to our second voicemail. This coming from Nebraska.
Hello, Titletown Sound crew. This is Brandon Olderback here live at my own home here in Lincoln, Nebraska, to say to you guys that the game was amazing. Everything went perfect and things went well. At the same time, we have other analysis. Let's go to Elmo on the sidelines.
Well, it was really amazing and awesome, and I couldn't believe what was going on. And at the same time, I was so worried about Nelson and Montgomery. I didn't know what to think when they got hurt. It gave me the Jeepers Creepers. Now the Scooby with the sideline report.
Well, thank you, buddy. Oh, okay. Anyway, what was I doing, Reggie? Oh, you don't know what you're doing, buddy. But either way, the game went pretty good. Hopefully Nelson comes back A-okay, so we can continue this playoff run, right, Hank?
Oh, that's right. Golly gee. Well, they're going to be playing against my Cowboys, but I have looked and sold propane professionally, and at the same time saw that they're going to be playing against them. Now I'm scared. All right, guys. I hope everything goes well. Hope you enjoyed your Sunday. The victory was amazing. I don't have much else. Hopefully, like I said, Nelson comes back healthy. If not, hopefully we can continue the positive vibes heading into game against Dallas. All right, guys. Have a great one. I'm out.
That was a bunch of people in one voicemail there. I didn't realize. So Hank Hill's going to go suck on some propane while he roots for the Cowboys this week. But James, your thoughts on that voicemail?
I feel like Elmo hanging out with the Scooby-Doo gang would not do them any good at all. Like, they're not catching anybody with Elmo around. I don't know. Plus, he refers to himself in the third person, which is annoying. Elmo does all the time.
That's his thing. But I wonder if you'd think Shaggy would get Elmo, on the wacky weed. I just want to see Elmo high. That's all I'm asking.
He's not already?
Well, good question. I feel the one question I have though is so Brandon, the real so that's like one of the non-voices. That's his real voice. I finally placed who he is. I'm pretty sure. So I used to go to Ocean City, Maryland as a kid, and they have the rides at the end of the boardwalk. I don't know if you guys are familiar. You live in the Midwest, so you don't see the ocean very often. They have the boardwalk. At the end of the boardwalk, there's rides. And the one guy who ran the Matterhorn, I swear this guy was there for 30 years. So the Matterhorn would go forwards and it would go backwards. And the guy had this DJ voice. And he would just say, all right, now you want to go faster? I'm pretty sure that's Brandon, though he does seem considerably younger than that guy.
Interesting. I can neither confirm nor deny this. James, have you seen the ocean, first of all? Because I sure haven't.
I grew up in Oregon, where I was about 30 minutes away from the ocean, so I was there all the time. I never met anybody running a ride that did Scooby-Doo impressions, though.
That's a good point. Although people who run rides are known as carnies, and Scooby-Doo did his best work at abandoned amusement parks, so there's a relation.
That's true. It's all coming together. It's like Law and Order.
Yeah, absolutely. Dun, dun.
We'll work on this more after the show. I did see the Gulf of Mexico once. But anyway.
Your house?
Thankfully, no. That would have been very problematic for me if that was the case.
Little Sarah Palin reference.
A little bit. Too much, some would say. Anyway, it is time now for the Nuggets of Wisdom from Papa K. And now it's time for...
No one comes into this house without paying a price.
Papa K's Nuggets of Wisdom.
Hi, this is Bill Kristofco calling in the aftermath of the Packers' delicious 38-13 romp over the New York Football Giants today in the first round of the playoffs, and it's on to Dallas. Before getting into a few comments, I'm very pleased to announce that this segment has a sponsor tonight, and we'll hear a few words from this sponsor. Do you punch holes in the wall at work after a frustrating day on the job? Are you looking for a chance to unwind and let it all hang out? Do you wish you could spend a mellow afternoon with Trey Songz, and his treasury of golden oldies? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, then you need to call us at the Justin Bieber Cruise Lines at 1-800-BECKHAM. That's 1-800-BECKHAM. Our motto is, we're the best, hands down. And now a few thoughts on today's game. The resilience of this team is just amazing, just delightful to watch. I've listed just 4 here. There's certainly many, many others, but the Packers lose Jordy Nelson, and up steps Randall Cobb to catch 3 touchdown passes and play like the Randall Cobb we're so pleased to watch week after week when he's not injured. The second one, the offense sputters for the first 26 minutes of the game, and yet the defense allows only 2 field goals on 3 giant drives inside the 35. Now, granted, there were some drops by the Giants, but hey, that's part of the game. If they can't make the plays, then they pay for it, and the Packers made them pay for it. Here's a very interesting statistic that I saw tonight. Again, the Packers' resilience. The Packers lose Sam Shields and Quentin Rollins and struggle with injuries in the defensive backfield. And yet, in 2 games that Odell Beckham Jr. played against the Packers this year, he was targeted 23 times, and yet he caught passes for only 84 yards. Now, you figure in 1 game this year, Julio Jones caught 300 yards worth of passes against the Carolina Panthers. That's pretty amazing. Well, so is 84 yards on 23 targets. Darius Gunter had a lot to do with that. The safeties playing over. Beckham had a lot to do with that. That's, again, resilience and some very fine coaching by the Packers. A fourth sign of the resilience of this team came after Mike McCarthy's absolutely horrible, in my opinion, decision to go for it on 4th and 1 inside his own 45-yard line with the Packers up by 8 points. I'm not second-guessing because at the time I hated the call, and it led 2 plays later to a giant touchdown to cut the lead to 14-13. What impressed me was what happened in the ensuing Packer possession. Aaron Rodgers marched the Packers down the field for a touchdown to make it 21-13, and it was all downhill from there. That was impressive. That's the kind of football that has been so exciting during this run of 7 straight victories, and again, showing the resilience of this team. I guess Randall Cobb will be around next year, just like Devontae Adams last year. It's really tough to know what's going on with players who are not performing and who have injuries that we as fans don't really know about. These 2 men are really stepping up at a time when it's needed, especially with Jordy Nelson's injury. And it's great watching them, and it'll be great to know that Randall Cobb will be back next year. Drops played a key role in this game, as we know. And one of the key drops was by Jared Cook at the Giant 20 with 6 seconds left in the first half. That fortuitously set up the Hail Mary touchdown pass. It's funny how sometimes what we think is a mistake, in this case, turned into a Packer touchdown. So it's on to Dallas with 7 wins in a row, and as James calls it, Skeleton Stadium. I know I'm really liking this team and enjoying the ride, and who knows how far this ride may go. So go Pack Go, and again, thanks to our sponsor tonight, the Justin Bieber Cruise Lines. Good night. Go Pack Go.
All right, thank you once again to Bill Kristofco, Chris's dad, for calling in and dropping the word on us. Chris, thoughts on your dad's comments?
First of all, I just am shocked that he got his sponsorship before we did. But second of all, wow, way to bring it, Dad. And apparently he also listens to the actual show that he's on because he made a reference to James. I'm blown away. But I do want to say the one thing that I did notice is how lucky that Jared Cook drop really was. That was something that I do remember from the game, because when it happened, I was pissed off. I mean, I guess what Twitter will tell you from tonight is it's better to be pissed off than pissed on, but I was really upset when he dropped it until I realized, oh, that actually gives us a chance, because with 6 seconds left to catch there, the half is over. But I can't disagree with much of what my dad said, and I don't remember much of it after the commercial, because the Justin Bieber cruise line, now that's somewhere I want to be. I want to cruise with Justin.
I'm sure it would be a really good time, but probably be a lot of police involved too. James, your thoughts?
I'm not going to lie. I'm completely starstruck that he knows who I am. and he listens to the words that I say, and thanks, Papa K. The Justin Bieber cruise line, I picture it being like just this big boat with Justin Bieber and like Gronk, and like just a part. Oh my God! Can you imagine the party boat that would be? I want on that boat.
There's like a lot of premium tequila being poured everywhere, and lots of furniture being destroyed.
I would stick out like a sore thumb so bad on that boat, like just this big fat white like pasty guy, just hanging out on the poop deck. No, Papa K brings it, man. He's great, and he's completely right. The Jared Cook thing, I was mad too at first, and then I went, well, we have no timeouts, so 6 seconds left. It would have been a wrap. And then Rodgers and Cobb they bring magic. So
I do want to say that I think that Rodgers in many ways did overcome poor coaching, because that 4th and 1, I'm with my dad on that one. As soon as they called that, I thought, why are we doing this? The defense is playing well. We're not desperate. We're on our own side of the field. It doesn't make sense. And as soon as they didn't get that first down, I thought that was one of those times in the game where you say, well, there goes momentum. But despite that problem, Rodgers was able to turn it around, and that was impressive.
Absolutely.
All right.
I liked I liked going for it on 4th down. I didn't mind that. I just thought the play call was stupid.
All right. On that note, shout out to the Justin Bieber cruise line. Keep in mind, no monkeys allowed. Leave your monkeys in Germany, just like Justin Bieber did. I still hold a grudge about that. You don't leave your monkey behind.
No one leaves a monkey in this house.
And trimming that for a future show drop. Okay. Time now to go to True False. And James.
Yeah.
Buddy, my friend, compadre. How'd you think you did last week?
I have a feeling I got smoked.
You won the regular season title, and then you show up last week, and you got 4 out of 5 right again. Doggone it.
I did?
Oh, come on.
And Jeremy also got 4 right. Answer copier. Excuse me. And Chris, you got 3 correct. I got 2.
I don't. This is friggin' rigged.
Well, of course it is. But
the Russians clearly hacked True False because they wanted James to win all along. They've got videos of him in hotel rooms in Waukesha doing weird things, and that's why he's winning.
False.
Dude, if this was rigged, I'd be in 3rd place right now instead of 4th.
False news. False news.
So anyways, we better get on to True False number 1 here. Before something happens. True False number 1. Aaron Rodgers throws for more than 300 yards. Aaron Rodgers is averaging just under 300 passing yards per game over the last 3 weeks. Dallas had the 7th worst pass defense in the regular season, allowing 260.4 passing yards per game. Rodgers threw for 294 in Week 6 against Dallas. So Aaron Rodgers throws for more than 300 yards. Surprisingly, I'm going to say false, because what have I got to lose at this point? Chris, true or false?
It doesn't matter what I say because, like I said, this game is fixed, but I will say true.
All right, James.
I also say
John
true.
Fixer.
I say true, and I'm happy doing it.
A fine answer, comrade. True false number 2. Ezekiel Elliott rushes for at least 100 yards. Elliott led the league in rushing this season with over 1,600 yards. He averaged 115 yards per game over the last 3 games he played. He did not play week 17 and then the bye week, so he's had a couple weeks off. He had 157 rushing yards last time Dallas faced Green Bay. That was his second highest rushing total of the year. He had 159 against Tampa Bay in week 15. Green Bay allowed 70 rushing yards against the Giants last week, so Ezekiel Elliott rushes for at least 100 yards. I will say false. Chris, how about you?
I will say false as well. I'm going all optimism all the time because results don't matter. I'm not bitter at all. I just hate James.
James, what about you?
I get that a lot. It's true. He's running for 100. He might run for 200.
All right. We've got some dissension between you. About time. True false number 3. Des Bryant reels in at least 70 yards receiving. Bryant has averaged 54 yards receiving over the last 3 games he's seriously played in. He did not play against Green Bay back in week 6, and he played but did not record a reception in week 17. Didn't really play a whole lot, though, so it's not saying much. So he also essentially playing with 2 weeks off. Green Bay's passing D was tied for second worst in the league, allowing 269.2 passing yards on average to quarterbacks. They allowed 299 last week to Giants receivers who couldn't catch a cold. So Des Bryant reeling in at least 70 yards receiving. I am going to say true, and I'm not sure why, but that's what I've got here. Chris, Des Bryant reeling in at least 70 yards.
I will say the opposite of what James says.
Fine.
All right.
Be that way. I'm saying true.
James says true. Chris, you're going to go false then.
I am. That's how it works.
All right. We have true false number 4 now. The Packers rush for at least 75 yards as a team. Green Bay was 20th in the league in rushing with 106.3 rushing yards per game. Last week they had 75 rushing yards against a Giants defense that was 3rd best in the league against the run. Dallas ended the season as the league's best rushing defense, allowing 83.5 rushing yards per game. So the Packers rush for at least 75 yards as a team. I will say true. Chris, how about you?
They might rush for that many as a fullback, so I'm going to say true.
All right. Closest you're getting to a Ripper question this week. James, how about you?
Come on, man. Where's no Ripper?
By the way, hold on. This is the first Ripper reference in episode 93. We made it longer in this episode than any other episode, I'm pretty sure, the entire season.
I'm kind of ashamed.
Does that count the 20 minutes we talked about Ripper before the show?
That doesn't count. Yeah, good point.
Oh, okay. So James, Packers rush for at least 75 yards as a team. True or false?
I'll say true. I feel like they're going to have to get some sort of rushing game going to open it up.
Alrighty. And number 5, the Green Bay defense records at least 2 turnovers. Dak Prescott has only thrown 4 picks this year in 459 pass attempts. One of those interceptions, though, came against Green Bay. Dallas has lost 9 fumbles on the year. They have a +5 turnover ratio overall on the season. Green Bay with 17 interceptions, just in case you're wondering, and a +8 turnover ratio overall. So the Green Bay defense records at least 2 turnovers. I will say true. Chris, how about you?
Again, all optimism all the time. I'll say true. It doesn't seem like it makes sense because he doesn't turn the ball over, but something's going to bounce our way this week. I feel it.
All right, James.
I'll say false. I don't see it.
That's the spirit. All right, so James, you got 4 trues this week. Keep that in mind as you try to defend your regular season title here in the postseason. Oh. And just remember, none of us are rooting for you.
in this game, in life, ever.
It's the same speech my parents gave me on graduation night.
Oh, where's the drum roll? Drop when I need it. All right, let's move on now to the game some people like to call Spread 'em.
All right, hands on the hood and spread them.
Bovada.lv, as of Tuesday evening, had Green Bay +4 in the spread department. So, Chris, Dallas is the favorite here. Would you care to explain, for those of us who still are not sure we've got the spread thing down yet, what Green Bay +4 means?
Sure, if you pick the Packers, add 4 to their score. In other words, if you pick the Packers, you're picking them to either lose by 3 or less, or to win the game outright. If you pick Dallas, you're picking them to win by 5 or more. 4 would be a push.
All right. The current results, basically everybody got this right last week, except for one person that picked the Giants and spread them. We won't say who that was, but he's currently tied with Jeremy in third place right now with 7 correct answers in this game.
So that was you, right? Yeah.
I don't want to name names, but I'll just
Justin
say,
Bieber?
I'll just say it wasn't Justin Bieber, it wasn't Jeremy, and it wasn't you guys, because you're tied for first right now and spread them. And our Twitter, you can play this game with us on Twitter, by the way, at Titletown Sound. They got it right as well last week, so they're up to 4 wins on the season. Good for you. So Green Bay +4. I am going to go ahead and pick Dallas because, well, the Packers won when I picked the Giants last week, so screw it. I'll pick Dallas now. Chris, how about you?
I think the Packers, first of all, appreciate you, Bobbo, taking one for the team there. I think this game is going to be it's a fast track, first of all, in a dome. My only concern is Rodgers unable to throw the full arc on his Hail Mary because of the large Jumbotron. But despite that, I still think it's going to be like a 42-24 game, and the Packers win, and they win. They're not going to start slow, but they'll start pulling away in the third quarter.
All right, so you going Green Bay?
I said they would win 42-24.
That's good.
I
just want to make sure. That's what I put down.
All right.
I stopped listening to you about 2 seconds in, but
James, the same thing my parents said to me on my graduation night.
Where is that drum roll? Dang it. James, who are you taking?
I'll keep it short and sweet. I'm taking Dallas. I'm not saying I think they're going to win, but I think it's going to be a close game. Dallas.
Oh.
All righty. Sounds good.
Someone's
and of course,
taking the lead this week.
Mm-hmm.
That's
one way or another.
That's the real reason I'm doing it, honestly.
And the spirit of good competition, James takes one for the team as well. Jeremy, we will get his spread'em and true-false picks before the game starts on Sunday.
And I don't want to alarm anyone, but we may have Jeremy in the booth next week.
We might have him back here in the studios. If we can get him out of jail by then, he'll be here.
Does that mean I have to move?
We're still coming up.
Does that mean I have to move my stuff off his chair?
Yeah, what I don't understand is we've had a GoFundMe up for months, and there's 8 cents in there for his bail money. I thought we would do a little better than that.
Yeah, well, we've got a folding chair. I don't think you have to move your stuff.
Oh,
you can just sit on that.
Good deal.
I could sit on the floor. I mean, it's not that dirty. But, Anyways, Jeremy, we miss you. We'll have you back soon as we can.
We'll miss you that
come up with the other 92 cents and however many hundreds of dollars we need. But whatever, details.
Round up.
So that about wraps it up for the show this week.
I didn't know jaywalking was that big of an offense, though.
Well, it was doing it with no pants on. Yeah, that'll get you every time.
Naked jaywalking. They clamp down on that these days.
The old sundial.
I think there's a grunge song called Naked Jaywalking by Cataclysmic... Well, never mind. We'll tell you more about that on the Uncensored podcast whenever that happens.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's an inside joke from show prep that only 3 people listening get, and all 3 people are currently recording. So just trust us, it's funny.
Oh, gosh. So anyways, please visit the website, TitletownSoundoff.com, where we've got stuff going up all the time, all sorts of fantastic analysis, and by all means, let us know what you think of the articles. Feel free to post comments, all that good stuff. And at Titletown Sound is our Twitter handle. If you want to tweet at each of us individually, I am at That's Our Bobbo, or That's Sour Bobbo if I'm feeling grumpy. Jeremy is at TTSO_Jeremy, I believe. Chris, you are
at TTSO_Chris.
And James, you are
at JK sub 20.
Fantastic. And our voicemail number, once again, if you want to give us a buzz, you can do it before the game, you can do it during the game, after the game, win, lose, draw, whatever. We like to hear from you. The area code 920-445-8876. Or if you want to spell it out, 920-HIC TTSO, patent pending on that. And of course, again,
that's an invention.
I don't think that's how patents work.
Yeah, well, I'll look it up. I think Jeremy's in jail for something related to that too. But we'll talk to him about that. And also make sure you are subscribed to us on iTunes so you do not miss a single episode of Titletown Sound. And Chris, do you want to mention the Patreon account one more time?
Sure, www.patreon.com/TTSO. Again, you can go there, support the show. Donations will get you some bonus content. I'm really excited about where we're going to go with this over the off season, especially. So hit us up. And again, if you can't contribute money, we get it. I completely understand. Another way to support us is by giving us an iTunes rating. That really does help. We've seen a dramatic increase in our iTunes ratings, and all 5-star. Thank you guys. So that's great. It's another way to support us. I will also say good night, Prince Janice, and Godspeed, Justin Bieber Cruise Lines.
Yes, indeed. Jeremy also very excited about the things we got coming up on the website. Another reason that he's in jail. Long story, can't go into it right now. James, anything you want to say before we sign off?
I would like to say good night, and I can't wait to talk to you again, to my new best friend, Everson Griffin from the Vikings. He and I have bonded, and I feel like we're compatible. So, good night, E.
All right, and I will, as always, say don't forget to pet your cat. And I'm going to go listen to some grunge music as soon as we're done recording here, because now I'm in the mood for it. So, we will be here again with episode 94 next week. We hope you're here as well. Have yourself a fantastic week. And, of course, go Packers.
Drinking dark whiskey, telling white lies. One leads to another on a Saturday night. Don't you cross your heart unless you hope to die. Drinking dark whiskey, telling white lies.
The preceding podcast was a production of Productions Institute, LLC, copyright 2017, all rights reserved.